If you're watching this, don't blink, don't look away. And if you want the truth most people never hear, hit subscribe now because once this story starts, there's no easy way out. The steel door slammed shut with a sound that felt final. Like the end of a life instead of the start of a sentence. Michael Harris stood frozen as the echo rang through the intake hallway. The guards didn't rush him. They didn't need to. The door had already done the work. Somewhere behind him, paperwork was being stamped. Somewhere ahead, men were watching. Michael felt it before he saw it, the weight of eyes measuring him, judging him, deciding what he was worth. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Michael had walked into prison on his own feet, by choice. No chase. No courtroom drama. No jury reading a verdict. Just a quiet agreement signed behind closed doors. He was here to observe. To report. To come back out with the truth. That was the promise. That was the deal. But as the guard leaned close and whispered, "Keep your head down," Michael knew something had already gone wrong. The uniform they handed him was stiff and faded, smelling of bleach and old sweat. When he pulled the orange jumpsuit over his clothes, it felt like crossing a line he couldn't uncross. His name was replaced with a number. His watch was taken. His wallet disappeared into a plastic bag. Each item gone made the outside world feel farther away, like a memory that didn't belong to him anymore. The first thing Michael noticed was the noise. Not shouting. Not screaming. Just a low, constant hum. Voices layered over each other. Metal clanging. Distant laughter that didn't sound happy. It was the sound of too many men trapped into little space for too long. As he was led through the corridor, Michael saw faces pressed against bars. Some looked bored. Some looked angry. A few smiled, slow and knowing, like they'd seen this scene play out 100 times before. One man locked eyes with him and made a slicing motion across his throat. Then laughed as the guard shoved Michael forward. "Eyes front," the guard said. But his voice lacked authority. It sounded tired, almost careless. Michael's cell was small. Concrete walls scratched with names and dates. A thin mattress. A toilet without a seat. The door slammed again, sealing him inside. For a moment, there was silence. Then a voice from the next cell spoke. "You won't last long if you stay quiet like that." Michael didn't answer. He sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding, replaying the briefing in his head. Remember your role. Don't draw attention. Observe. Document mentally. Survive. That last word felt heavier now. The hours crawled. Eventually, the door opened and Michael was pushed into the unit. This was where the rules changed. No signs explained them. No handbook spelled them out. Learn by watching or by paying the price. Men clustered in small groups, moving like schools of fish. No one stood alone unless they wanted trouble. Michael felt exposed, like a spotlight was on him. He tried to walk casually, but his body betrayed him. His shoulders were tense. His eyes darted. A large man stepped into his path. Tattoos crawled up his neck like dark vines. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You knew," the man said. It wasn't a question. Before Michael could respond, another inmate appeared at his side, slimmer, older, eyes sharp. "He's fresh," the second man said. "Give him time." The big man shrugged and walked away. But the message was clear. Michael had been noticed. That night. Sleep didn't come. Every sound made him flinch. Somewhere down the tier, a fight broke out. Guards arrived late, shouting just enough to sound official. Michael lay staring at the ceiling, wondering how long temporary really meant in a place like this. The next day, the yard changed everything. The sun was bright. Almost mocking. The open space should have felt like freedom, but it didn't. It felt like exposure. Men circled the yard in slow loops, lifting weights, trading quiet words. Michael stood among them, trying to disappear. That's when someone brushed past him and slipped a folded piece of paper into his hand. He didn't open it right away. He waited until he was back in his cell, heart racing. Inside was a single sentence, written neatly. "You don't belong here. That's dangerous." Michael stared at the words. Someone knew, or thought they knew. Either way, it meant attention, and attention in prison was never free. Later that evening, a guard stopped outside his cell longer than necessary. He looked Michael up and down, then smiled. "You adjusting okay?" the guard asked. Michael nodded. "Good," the guard said. "Wouldn't want any problems." As the footsteps faded, Michael felt a chill crawl up his spine. The guard hadn't sounded concerned. He'd sounded informed. That night, the men from the yard appeared again, standing just outside the bars. "You got a choice," he said softly. "Everyone does. But choices close fast in here." "What kind of choice?" Michael asked. The men leaned closer. "Protection or exposure?" Before Michael could answer, the lights cut out, plunging the unit into darkness. Somewhere nearby, a door opened that wasn't supposed to open. And Michael realized the worst part wasn't that he had volunteered to come to prison. It was that prison might not let him leave. Morning came without mercy. The lights snapped on before Michael was ready, flooding the unit with harsh white glare. Men groaned, cursed, rolled off bunks like machines restarting. Michael hadn't really slept. His mind kept circling the same thought. Someone knew he didn't belong here. Worse, more than one person. At breakfast, the air felt thicker. Trays slid across metal rails. Conversations dropped when Michael passed. He could feel the shift, subtle but real. Like the prison had leaned in closer to listen. He sat alone, forcing himself to eat. Even though his stomach twisted with every bite, a shadow fell across his table. The older man from the yard sat down without asking. Up close, his face was lined and tired, the kind of tired that came from years, not days. "Name's Ray," he said quietly. "You need to stop standing out." "I'm not trying to," Michael said. Ray gave a thin smile. "That's the problem. You don't know how." Ray explained the basics in pieces, careful never to sound like a teacher. Where to sit, when to move, who to nod at, and who to avoid completely. "This place runs on favors," he said, "not laws." Michael asked the question burning in his chest. "Why help me?" Ray's eyes flicked toward the guard's desk. "Because I've seen men like you disappear. And because someone's watching you too closely." That word again, watching. Later that day, Michael was called out of the unit. A guard escorted him down a quiet hallway to a small office. The door closed behind him with a soft click that felt louder than any slam. The guard leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "You're doing fine," he said. "But this place eats people who don't adapt." Michael nodded, choosing silence. The guard lowered his voice. "Information keeps you safe. Who you talk to, what you hear, small things." Michael felt the trap closing. "I don't hear much." The guard smiled. "You will." When Michael was sent back, Ray was waiting. "They talked to you," he said, not a question. Michael hesitated, then nodded. Ray cursed under his breath. "That's bad. Once guards take interest, it spreads." The tension finally snapped that evening. It happened fast. Too fast to understand at first. A shout. A rush of bodies. Someone slammed into Michael from behind, driving him to the floor. Fists flew. Boots scraped concrete. He covered his head, feeling blows land, sharp and heavy. Then it stopped. Guards swarmed in late, batons raised, shouting orders they didn't enforce. Michael lay there, breathing hard, blood trickling from his lip. The men who'd attacked him were already stepping back into the crowd, faces blank. And the infirmary, a nurse cleaned his wounds without meeting his eyes. "You're lucky," she said. "Next time might be worse." Next time, the word echoed, back in his cell. Michael found another note waiting on his bunk. Decision time. No signature, no explanation. As the lights dimmed for the night, Michael understood the truth with crushing clarity. Prison wasn't testing him anymore. It was recruiting him. Michael didn't answer the note, not out loud, not in writing. In prison, silence was an answer of its own, and sometimes the most dangerous one. The next day, Ray stopped sitting with him. That was how Michael knew the clock had started, in the yard. The usual patterns shifted. Men who once brushed past him now held eye contact a second too long. Conversations paused when he walked by, then resumed in low murmurs. It felt staged, like a play where everyone knew their lines except him. By afternoon, someone finally spoke. A younger inmate cornered him near the handball court, voice calm, almost polite. "You don't get to stay neutral here," he said. "Neutral people make everyone nervous." Michael tried to step away, but two more men closed in, not touching him, just blocking the space. A warning, not an attack. Yet. That night, Ray appeared at his cell door again. He looked different now. Tensed, afraid. "They want you useful," Ray said. "And the guards want the same thing. What happens if I don't play along?" Michael asked. Ray didn't answer right away. He glanced down the tier, then back at Michael. Then something happens that can't be undone. And no one writes it down. The next morning, the unit went on lockdown. No explanation. No timeline. Hours dragged by. When the doors finally opened, one cell down the tier stayed closed. The man inside never came out. No stretcher. No announcement. Just absence. Later, a guard stopped Michael in the hallway. "You've been quiet," he said. "That worries people." "I don't have anything to say," Michael replied. The guard leaned in, voice low. "Everyone does. Sometimes they just don't realize it yet." That evening, Michael returned to his cell and froze. His mattress had been flipped. His few belongings scattered. And on the concrete wall, scratched deep enough to leave dust on the floor, were 3 words. "Choose. Or be chosen." Michael sat down slowly, heart pounding. He finally understood what prison really was. Not walls. Not bars. A system that forced decisions, then punished you for making them. Somewhere outside, a door buzzed open that wasn't meant to. And for the first time since he'd entered by choice, Michael wondered if the only way out was to become exactly what prison wanted him to be. The sound came before the violence. A sharp crack, like bone against concrete, echoed through cell block. Conversations died mid-sentence. Cards froze in midair. Even the men who'd survived decades inside prison walls felt it in their gut, the unmistakable signal that something had gone wrong. Michael was standing near the far wall when it happened, pretending to read a torn paperback someone had left behind. He wasn't really reading. In prison, pretending is survival. Pretend you don't hear threats. Pretend you don't see alliances forming. Pretend you don't notice when eyes linger too long. Then someone screamed. It wasn't long or dramatic. Just one raw burst of pain, cut short. The yard erupted. Inmates scattered, some backing away, others instinctively circling toward the violence like sharks catching blood in the water. Guards were slow, always slow. By the time boots thundered and whistles pierced the air, it was already over. A man lay on the concrete. Blood pooled beneath his head, dark and spreading, soaking into the cracks of the yard like it had been waiting there all along. His name was Luis. Michael had spoken to him exactly twice. Once in the chow line, once when Luis warned him never to sit at the wrong table. Now Luis wasn't moving. The weapon was gone. It always was. Face down, hands behind your head, guards shouted. Batons raised, fear and adrenaline mixing into aggression. Michael dropped instantly, gravel biting into his cheek. His heart slammed so hard he thought everyone could hear it. This was real now, not the stories. Not the rumors. Not the whispered warnings in the dark. Someone had crossed a line and everyone would pay for it. They locked the entire unit down for 3 days. No yard. No commissary. No showers. Just stale air, flickering lights, and the heavy knowledge that someone nearby had just proven how cheap a life really was inside these walls. Michael replayed the moment over and over in his head. The way Luis had glanced around before it happened. The way certain inmates didn't look surprised. The way others looked relieved. That's when Michael understood something terrifying. This wasn't chaos. It was order. Someone had decided Luis was a problem. Someone had approved it. And someone had carried it out while everyone else watched or pretended not to. On the second Night of lockdown, a voice whispered from the cell next to his. You saw it, didn't you? Michael didn't answer. You're not stupid, the voice continued. Calm, confident, dangerous. That was a message. And now they're watching to see who got it. Michael swallowed. Neutral doesn't exist anymore. The man said, you either belong, or you're next. Silence followed. Heavy, final. Michael lay awake long after lights out, staring at the ceiling, knowing one thing for certain. He had survived his first killing inside prison, but the prison had just decided he was ready for the next test. And next time, he might be the one on the ground. Lockdown ended quietly. No announcement, no apology, just doors buzzing open like nothing had happened, like a man hadn't died 10 feet from where everyone stood. That's how prison worked to erase the blood. Keep the rules. Michael stepped into the yard slower this time. His shoulders stayed tight. His eyes never stopped moving. He'd learned fast, the men who survived weren't the strongest. They were the most aware. That's when the offer came. A man named Carter sat alone at a metal table near the fence, late 40s. Calm posture. Clean boots. The kind of inmate guards nodded at instead of shouted at. Power without noise. Carter didn't wave. Didn't call out. He simply slid a seat back with his foot. Michael hesitated. Sit, Carter said. Not a command, a fact. Michael said. You kept your mouth shut, Carter continued. Eyes scanning the yard, not Michael. That's why you're still breathing. Michael said nothing. Luis was a liability, Carter said flatly. Too loud, too careless. That doesn't survive here. Michael's jaw tightened. You're saying this like it's business. Carter finally looked at him. Cold smile. It is. Then came the choice. You can keep pretending you're invisible, Carter said. But invisible men disappear fast. Or you can be useful. Michael felt the weight of it press into his chest. Useful how? Carter leaned closer. Messages. Watching. Standing in the right place at the right time. A pause. Protection comes with it. Michael thought about Lise, about the blood, about the voice in the dark telling him neutrality didn't exist. And if I say no? Michael asked. Carter stood up, already done with the conversation. Then we stop pretending you're not part of this. He walked away. Michael stayed seated long after. Carter disappeared into the crowd, knowing something worse than violence had just happened. He'd been recruited, and prison didn't recruit people unless it planned to use them.
Michael accepted the protector. He didn't decide it out loud. He didn't pay ito. From that day on, no one bumped into him by accident. No one touched him in this way. He stayed tight until check in show. Protection had appraised and table came faster. He started small, then bigger fondness. Someone said, tell us what else to war. Well, this notable kill block say, nothing illegal, nothing violent. Then only there, Carter appeared at his cell door. You removing up, he said. Michael felt it instantly, the shiver. Then, this wasn't the observation and more. They walked him to the laundry room. After legal soldier, no cameras, no guardia. Just swimming machines and shadows that swallowed on. Kaman was already carried. Young, shouting, breathed. Eyes wide with the same fear Michael said to have. His collar, Carter said, from the wrong purple. Michael shook his head. They're not you were not killing him. Carter interrupted. Relax, then I handed Michael a soap. Instead something healthy. You were just reminding him where he lives now. The room one cylinder. Michael stared at the soap. This was the liner. I tell you, the moment after which nothing ever goes back to normal. The human whispered, please, Michael is hands trembled if he refused. The protection vanished. Worse, he become a liability. Another wish, if he swung, he crossed into something permanent. Carter watched closely, not angry, curious. Michael closed his eyes when the sun hit face. They took louder than the crack in the yard days earlier. The man collapsed, staying alive. Michael dropped the soap and stumbled back, his stomach twisting, his breath ragged. Carter nodded on it, had his feet good, he said, now you understand. That nigger, Michael scrubbed his hand until his skin burned, but the blood was the worst part. It was the realization that scared him most. He had crossed the lane by accident. He declared it because survival demanded it, and prison was just getting started.